Hi guys, today I'd like to talk to you about necessary boundaries. And boundaries are necessary. Boundaries can give you great power, great influence, or boundaries can hinder you. And the question is, how do we see boundaries and what the purpose is? And the best way to describe boundaries is always think about a river. And rivers have banks. Those are boundaries, those natural boundaries. And as long as a river stays within the banks, there's always momentum, there's always flow. It's always going to flow downhill. So coming down from a mountain, by the time you get near the bottom, that thing is pretty rapid, very fast, and it stays inside its banks. Then you could do a lot with it. Loggers send logs down on water and it picks up pretty much speed too. But the issue with boundaries is this: as long as what is inside them is contained, it's a force to be reckoned with. But once rivers have too much for their banks and overflows their banks, which we see in storms, major storms, hurricanes, and so on, the flooding that takes place, that it wreaks havoc with the environment around it. So basically, if there's a river that always overflows its banks, you really can't utilize the power of that river because it really serves as a runoff. Because as soon as the water gets down to that area where the banks are low, it's just going to run out to the left, to the right, and just flood the areas, and usually those are the floodplains. And so the issue now is when it comes to your life or it comes to your business, setting boundaries is so important because it guides you. And here's one of the biggest issues in setting boundaries. Set boundaries that are equal to your gifts and your talents. Some people set the boundaries too high and they end up with tunnel vision. And what'll happen then is you can't see the surroundings, you don't get your bearings, you don't know where you are. So if you set your boundaries commensurate with your gifts and talents, now what you have really is a perfect storm in a good way, because you can ride the rapids, if you will, and the momentum you have is incredible. And you think about it, you're not using anything but natural energy. So just the way you are on the water, when everything is going smooth and you're staying in the channel of your effectiveness and setting the boundaries that are necessary, then what happens is you have rapid growth. You also have consistency. You also have that all-powerful momentum that companies have. And it's not something you can stop immediately. So momentum is good when it's going for you. When it's against you, it's a tyrant, because momentum, whichever way it flows, cannot stop immediately. It has to progressively slow down. So some of the things you need to know about boundaries, and I just wrote a note here about it, that keep in mind that it's a safeguard. So when you look at boundaries in a positive mindset, it will help you stay in your area of effectiveness. So set the boundaries to spend 75, 80, 85, even 90% of your time in your strengths. There you will have your most efficient, most productive, and the most creative flows of your life are always in the areas of your strengths. And when you stay in there, just as the river stays in its banks and it builds momentum, you will have a flow of momentum, a flow of creativity. You will have a flow, a spurry, if you will, a flurry of creativity, as I said, but also it increases productivity. It also makes team efforts grow. Everyone is in sync, because when you're together in a rapid flow of momentum, everything seems to go right. However, when the reverse is true, you can't buy a win. So I want to encourage you to set the boundaries that are in line with your gifts. Stay within those boundaries, no matter how tempting the surrounding countryside looks to you. Don't venture outside those boundaries. You'll lose your momentum and you'll have chaos. But the most order, the most momentum, the most consistent flow of productivity comes when you have necessary boundaries. So until next time, I'll talk to you again.